All right, guys, today we are back in the trenches with your TC Hannah, and today we have a deal with a schizophrenic alcoholic seller, a doctor who has to get involved to prove competency, right? Because they're a little on the cuckoo for Cocoa Puff side, a double close, and then another deal where a brother-in-law decides to interject themselves at closing and try to kill your deal.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's start with the highlight. Let's go with the big banner here. Schizophrenic seller.
Yeah.
Yay! What happened?
He was a lot of fun.
Was he actually fun?
He was actually really
Like, if
fun.
you're gonna be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, you should be fun.
Yeah, you should be totally fun.
Don't be angry, right? That's not cool.
It was just interesting things that he would bring to the table,
Yeah?
which really kind of triggered my questioning.
Give me some interesting things. Like, because I feel like that person, I want to be all in, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're a waitress and you come over to my table and you're crazy, like, I'm in. Like, I'm cosplaying with you. I want to be on this ride.
Yeah, so he decided that I was Dracula a couple of times, which was really interesting because, I mean, who doesn't want to be Dracula anyway?
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes. And then he told me that I had a voice that lived in the clouds. I wasn't really sure how my voice lived in his clouds, but
He was friendly.
it was nice. He
Okay.
wasn't ever aggressive or mean
Yeah.
or angry at me about anything, so that helped
Not
a
like
lot.
weird hitting on you or anything. Just
Just, I was his voice in the cloud, and it was nice.
okay.
So that was fun.
All right. And you said there were certain times of day that were better for him than others.
Yeah, anything before 11 a.m.
Okay. Why? So, I mean, lots of people have mental health issues. Well, was he not taking his meds?
He stopped taking his meds because he couldn't drink and take his meds, and he really just wanted to go for a binger. So
Hey, man, life is about choices.
it is. It really is.
So he opted out. He would rather drink than be sane.
Yeah, or at least, somewhat stable. So,
I bet he was a happy guy.
I mean, in general, he seemed to be a pretty happy-lucky guy.
Yeah.
Just kind of nonchalant, no big deal. He told me he's selling his house so he could buy an RV and just go travel the world, which, I mean,
Okay.
good luck, buddy. I really hope that he gets to travel some and enjoy life.
Yeah. So did he work or anything, or is he just like on disability or something?
I think he was on disability. I didn't get any specifics on that.
So you had to call him in the morning because by the time the bender started, he was no good.
You couldn't understand him after 11.
So I did hear you actually talking about this the other day when we were sitting out here at the conference table, and my first spidey sense went off and said, "Oh my gosh, how could the title company let this guy sell his house?" Right?
Yeah.
Because a title company exists to guarantee a sale, and that everything was on the up and up, and that we were just talking earlier with Laura talking about fraud and fraudulent notaries and all of that. So yeah, the title company doesn't want to come back later and be sued and said, hey, somebody took advantage of this person because they weren't in their right mind. So how did you guys overcome that?
So his psychiatrist was really on board to have his back while he was on his meds. She knew that he had planned on selling the house, and she signed an affidavit saying that he had been on his meds long enough and that he had been stable
Wow.
and would be able to be considered competent at that time. We had a very short window to make sure that he stayed in that mindset.
So how long did this deal last from start to finish?
4 months.
4 months? You did this deal for 4 months? How many hours do you think you have in this deal?
Well, for the last 3 weeks, I called him every single morning before 9:30.
Yeah.
Just to make sure he was good, and then I talked to him
Do you ever
again.
feel like now that the deal's closed, you just want to give him a little good morning, like, hey man, just want to check in on you?
Okay, I'm going to be honest. The deal closed this morning, but
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still going to call him before I leave today just to check on him and make sure
Yeah.
he's good to go. I did
That's
also
caring.
talk to him just a few minutes ago, make sure he got paid, and he was super excited that he's got money. So,
Yeah.
I'm
Do you think the meds are done?
yeah, probably.
How much did he get? Can't believe you could say that.
I think he got 25,000 after all of his payoffs and everything.
Yeah. So he's free to the world. He's got 25 grand. Maybe he'd get a little cheap motorhome or something.
Yeah, and I think there was some extra once we confirmed vacancy of the property. There was a post
little holdback.
occupancy. So
Yeah.
I think he still gets another $5,000 or $8,000 later,
Oh, gas
somewhere
money.
along there.
Yes.
Or beer.
That's fantastic. So, like, 4 months is a long time. Did they have to get some extensions to figure out and get him sober? I don't know if sober is even the right word.
We did. So we actually made it all the way to the closing table once, and could not get him to sign. He actually ran off the notary, literally. That particular notary said she would not return to the property no matter what we paid her.
I've had sellers or buyer or notaries that have gone to a seller's house and like they've been out there with a shotgun on the porch. Like,
Yeah.
why are you on my property? Like, bro, we've been talking about this for 2 months.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
So, and then also he had lost his ID at that point too. So we're just trying to get the notary rescheduled even. And she said, you can't pay me
Part-time
enough to go
counselor
back.
to get these people
Right,
to do
so-
their thing.
We did get him checked in. His now ex fiance helped us get him checked in for care.
Okay.
Basically said, you're up a creek. He's not going to be okay to do anything. Talked to his counselor and everything while he was in.
So you talked to his counselor?
I did.
Oh my Lord. Okay. Talk about going above and beyond.
I just kept calling his phone and she finally answered.
Because he's on your list of files that you're working. So
Right. So
okay.
every week I had to call and check in. And since
Yeah.
I hadn't heard from him during, that week post supposed to be closed, and
Yeah.
I still needed to follow up on it to
Right.
either get a termination
Uh-huh.
or continuation somewhere in there. I was calling every other day.
Wow. And what's the client, the wholesaler? What are we telling him? Like, bro, you got cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs guy here and we're doing the best we can.
Yeah, pretty much. I just kind of just laid
I
it
feel
all
like
out
I'm
on
going
the
to get
line.
also shamed in the comments for saying cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but I don't know what else to say. And,
I mean, at that point in time, really, it was choices more than anything.
Yeah.
But the wholesaler knew the situation with
Mm-hmm.
the seller. Had also had some conversations. The seller was a little more explicit with the wholesaler than he was with me.
yeah. I do think that's true that, the sellers and buyers oftentimes see us as that like kind of independent third party. We're not the person buying, we're not selling, or if it's some heir, they're not mad at us because we're not the ones offering money. We're just like trying to get it done, man. We're just
Yeah.
here to get you paid and bring this thing to a conclusion.
Yeah, a lot of the time, and I feel like maybe sometimes our wholesalers take on a lot more of the aggressive issues, if there are any, from the sellers or the buyers when things
Yeah.
don't go their way. But yeah,
So this one had to get an extension because it went for 4 months.
yeah.
Hours and hours.
So it was actually only a 30-day extension past
Okay.
that close, and
So the clock was ticking.
the clock was ticking. We were okay to do another 30-day extension if needed, but the week before, the counselor said he's been doing really good with his meds. He's been pretty stable. He's showing cognitive signs of being competent to handle himself.
Yeah.
I would be comfortable signing off saying that yes, he can handle this.
Wow. So who prepared that? Did the
The
title
title
company?
office did.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
so
The
their
reason-
attorney
yeah.
provided all of the documentation. I sent it in through Dropbox, do the electronic signature,
Yeah.
and then they still came back and said that the counselor needed to have something notarized. So we, through
Right.
the title office, scheduled them a notary and
So
got everything
oftentimes people will
documented.
think powers of attorney or letters like that, like just anybody can draft them up. But really, an important tip for you guys is the title company needs to prepare those because they're the ones that are guaranteeing the title.
Right.
So they want it worded exactly the way they want it. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. The other thing is if they don't prepare it or if their attorney doesn't prepare it and there's something that needs to be changed, if you've had an attorney prepare it,
Now
you're
you
going to
pay
have to
double.
pay double because they have to have it edited
Yeah.
or update to match what's being required. So
Wow. So it finally closed today.
it did. It closed today. Recorded and funded. Everybody's happy.
Okay. How much did our client make?
75,000.
Holy shit, 75,000.
Yep.
What were the odds this thing closed without you?
Absolutely nothing. I
Zero.
think he was going to wash his hands and walk when
Yeah.
the seller didn't sign. And persistence pays off. And
So guys, gals, whoever's listening, this is the power of having a transaction coordinator. Again, I honestly would have walked away from this thing too, right? It's just too much craziness. I'd rather go on to my next deal. But by having somebody behind the scenes that's just working this deal, like calling every single day and figuring out how to navigate these problems, this is how you get these types of deals sold. $75,000, that's not nothing. That's a lot of money.
I couldn't walk away from it. I don't see how
yeah.
anybody else could. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Great job on that. Okay, so we got one more. I know you have so many, but we only have time to do two. There's another one, and this one, like, it just basically almost got torpedoed at the closing table.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'd gone over everything with the seller. She was on board, ready to close. The brother-in-law was there with her when the notary showed up and went through the settlement statement and questioned the second mortgage. Basically, just
The one that she signed and that she took the money from? Okay.
correct.
Okay.
And said that there was no way that there was two mortgages and that it must be fraud, and hung up on me while we were trying to go through everything, and then refused to take our calls. So we went all
And were they
weekend.
at a title company? Where were they?
We sent a mobile notary.
Okay, gotcha.
So that one was, it was kind of a scary weekend, to be honest. I wasn't sure how it was going to play out. So Monday morning, the title office sent a notice to the seller that we needed, a plan of action for next steps. What were her intentions to
Do you think maybe
continue?
she didn't tell her brother that she took this money?
I'm positive.
Huh?
She may not have even known. It could have been her husband that had passed.
Oh,
So
I gotcha. Okay.
there's always that possibility. But we had talked about the second mortgage
Right.
as we had approached closing.
Right. And even at the very start, one of the first things you do is we call it a seller document, but it's sort of that seller intake. And you ask them all these questions. Like it's like 65 questions. It's a ridiculous amount of stuff.
It is, but it's very important information. If we don't have that, it could lead to the title commitment coming in and saying there's three mortgages, and
Yeah.
then the sellers are really confused.
Right.
But even with the title commitment, we'd gone over all of those things, ready to close, finally cleared her HOA violations and everything else.
What kind of HOA violations did she have?
Oh, it was ridiculous. She had a flower bed in the backyard.
I'm torn on HOAs. I get it. Sometimes it's neighborhood Nazi Nancy. But other times, like, you know what? I don't want to live in a neighborhood where my neighbor can look like Sanford and Son. For those of you that aren't old enough to, I don't want a bunch of junk cars in the front yard, right?
Right.
So part of me is like, geez, I want my neighborhood to be nice. But other times, people get ridiculous about it.
They do. They get a lot overboard. If your backyard can't look by itself,
Yeah.
then, I mean,
I know. Put up a fence.
right.
You know.
Even with a fence, she still had a violation for a flower bed. It's it's silly.
That's a lot.
It is a
My
lot.
my cousin, I think, owned a property in Florida, and they repainted the house and didn't paint the right front door color, and it was a
Oh,
whole shooting match over it. It was wild.
that
The neighborhood I used to live in, you people would put out political signs, and so there was a thing that you could only like twice a year put out a sign for 30 days. Well, here's a great story. So so it was the husband and wife. It was like a townhome type of deal. It was a mix of townhomes and houses. And the husband, and these are like, I was the youngest person in this subdivision by far. So mostly 60 plus. Anyways, the guy slept with the neighbor's wife.
oh,
So the wife of the guy went and had these signs made that, like, you know, Bible verses and people adultery, and she would put them out in front for like 5 days, take them in, put them out, take them in, put them out, take them in, and that was her way of letting the whole neighborhood know that like this other woman did something wrong. Apparently, still with the husband. But anyways, that was always wild stuff.
that would be,
HOAs, sorry, we're on
yes,
such a
HOAs
tangent.
are so much fun.
Yeah. Now, what about this other deal? Was that the first deal where you were saying the buyer kind of drifted off? You were telling me about a buyer when they got their EMD back, and
Oh, that was the first deal.
okay, cool. Well, let's go back to that because I feel like I glossed
Okay.
over that.
Yes,
Yeah,
I probably did too.
it's
Yes.
okay.
So,
Well, the rest of it's so crazy.
yeah, when the close date came and
Yeah,
left, the buyer terminated the contract, refunded their
yeah.
EM.
They're like, I'm out. You guys can't close this. Give me back my
Yeah,
money. Fair, right?
and we agreed to that. It was
Yeah.
sent back. Our client was ready to just let go and walk away too.
Mm,
But of course, the title company needed the mutual release.
yeah,
So that was part of the reason I was, still nagging everybody for a little bit more. Come on,
yeah.
just a little bit more.
Give me a little more.
Yeah. So once I got that seller approval to
Uh,
get to close, I called the buyer and I just told her, "Hey, we've got approval to get this one closed. Do you still want
Do
it?"
you still want it? So you were the one that reached out to the wholesalers, and I don't want you guys to think this is going to be normal. We do this all the time. This is just a special case where you had a good relationship.
Yep.
But I think what it shows is how often that you and everybody else on the team out there really just go so far above and beyond to make sure that these deals get closed. Because I know it's a big part of how you all are graded and KPIs and all the other things. So That's amazing. That's an awesome story. That's might be the best part of all of this, is that you helped him save that deal for $75,000.
Yeah. So really, once the buyer said, yes, I still want it, I'll get my deposit posted.
Yeah,
She was getting her deposit posted before the client had a new contract to her.
really. That's awesome.
So title said that they had the money and they still needed the contract before they could give us a receipt.
Yeah.
So title had the deposit for 24 hours before we had our contract.
Wow, that's awesome. Great job on that. Great job on that. All right, guys. So there we are, another episode of In the Trenches with your TC Hannah. So today we have schizophrenic sellers. We have buyers who've drifted off, who you were able to pull back in, so your client made $75,000. We have doctors writing competency letters so that their client can go sign. We got meddling brother-in-laws. We got all kinds of crazy things. So if this is the sort of help that you need in your business, just reach out, comment below. We would love to have a chat and see how we can help you grow your business this year. So that's it. Another episode of In the Trenches with your TC. I'm David. This is Hannah. We will see you at the closing table.